It happens in every World Cup. A goal is scored, a whistle blows, a penalty is missed, and suddenly, millions of people experience something that seems difficult to explain. Some cheer, some scream, some celebrate in the streets until sunrise, and some cry. Not because they lost money, not because their lives are in danger, not because anything material has changed, but because of a football match. To an outsider, this reaction can seem irrational. Why would grown adults cry over a game? Why would strangers embrace after a goal? Why would entire nations experience collective joy or heartbreak because 22 players chased a ball across a field? Tonight we investigate one of football's deepest mysteries: why fans cry over a game, and why the answer reveals something profound about human nature itself. Chapter 1. It's never just a game. People often say, it's only football. But for millions of supporters, that statement has never felt true. Because football is rarely experienced as merely entertainment. It becomes identity, it becomes memory, it becomes belonging. A football club or national team often accompanies people through decades of life. Childhood, teenage years, adulthood, parenthood, old age. The team becomes woven into personal history. The matches become markers of time. People remember where they were during famous victories. They remember who they watched with. They remember how they felt. Over time, football stops being something people watch. It becomes something they live. Chapter 2. The need to belong. Human beings evolved in tribes. For most of history, belonging to a group increased the chances of survival. Isolation was dangerous. Connection was protection. Although modern life has changed dramatically, the psychological need remains. People still seek tribes, communities, groups, identities. Football provides all of them. A supporter enters a stadium surrounded by thousands wearing the same colors, singing the same songs, sharing the same emotions. For 90 minutes, strangers become a community. And that feeling can be extraordinarily powerful, because beneath the jerseys and flags lies something ancient. The human desire to belong. Chapter 3. The power of shared emotion. Most emotions are experienced individually. Football emotions are experienced collectively. When a goal is scored, thousands react simultaneously, sometimes millions. The stadium explodes, the city erupts, entire countries celebrate together. Psychologists call this emotional contagion. People naturally absorb the emotions of those around them. Joy spreads. Excitement spreads. Fear spreads. Hope spreads. Inside a football stadium, emotions can move through crowds faster than words. And when thousands experience the same feeling at the same moment, the emotion becomes amplified, far beyond what any individual might experience alone. Chapter 4. Why defeat hurts. One of football's strangest features is how deeply defeats can hurt. Supporters often speak as though they personally lost, even though they never stepped onto the field. This occurs because identity creates emotional investment. The brain begins treating the team's successes and failures as partly its own. Researchers have repeatedly observed this phenomenon. People say, "We won," "We lost," not, "They won," "They lost." The language itself reveals something important. Supporters psychologically merge part of their identity with the team. And when the team loses, something personal feels damaged. Not physically, but emotionally. Chapter 5. The World Cup Effect. The World Cup intensifies everything. Because club football divides communities, the World Cup unites nations. Millions of people who disagree about politics, religion, economics, and countless other issues suddenly support the same team. For a brief moment, national identity becomes concentrated. Every victory feels larger. Every defeat feels heavier. The tournament transforms football into something resembling a national emotional experience, a shared story unfolding in real time. That is why World Cup tears often feel different. They are rarely just personal. They become collective. Chapter 6. The Science of Football Euphoria. When supporters experience dramatic victories, the brain releases powerful chemicals: dopamine, adrenaline, endorphins. The same systems involved in reward, excitement, and anticipation become activated. The result is genuine emotional intensity. Football celebrations are not fake, they are biological. The brain reacts as though something deeply meaningful has occurred. And from a psychological perspective, something has. Because meaning is not determined only by objective importance. Meaning is determined by human experience. Chapter 7. Why underdog victories feel different. Few football moments generate stronger emotions than an underdog victory, because underdogs represent possibility, hope, resistance, the belief that overwhelming odds can be overcome. Supporters often see themselves in underdogs. Most people are not the strongest. Most people are not the richest. Most people are not the favorites. When an underdog wins, it feels like a symbolic victory for ordinary people everywhere. The match becomes bigger than football. It becomes a story, and stories move human beings more than statistics ever can. Chapter 8. Football as Modern Mythology. Ancient civilizations had myths, heroes, villains, epic struggles. Modern football often serves a similar psychological function. Teams become tribes, players become heroes, rivalries become narratives, tournaments become journeys. Every World Cup creates new stories, unexpected victories, tragic defeats, last-minute goals, impossible comebacks. Supporters do not merely consume these stories, they participate in them. And participation creates emotional attachment. Chapter 9. Why Tears Matter. People sometimes feel embarrassed about crying over sport, but perhaps they shouldn't, because tears are often evidence of meaning. People cry when something matters, when something connects deeply with identity, memory, belonging, hope, love. Football becomes a container for all of these things. The tears are rarely about a ball crossing a line. They are about what that moment represents. The friendships, the family traditions, the national pride, the years of anticipation, the memories attached to the experience. Football simply provides the trigger. The deeper emotions already existed. Chapter 10. What football reveals about human nature. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about football is that it exposes emotional truths many people rarely notice. Human beings crave belonging. They crave shared experiences. They crave stories. They crave meaning. Football satisfies all four simultaneously. That is why billions watch. That is why victories create joy. That is why defeats create heartbreak. And that is why fans cry. Not because football is irrational, but because football connects to some of the most fundamental parts of being human. The question was never really, why do fans cry over a game? The real question is, why do human beings care about anything? The answer is meaning, and football has become one of humanity's most powerful engines of meaning. It creates memories, communities, stories, identities, and emotions, which is why every 4 years, billions gather around screens and stadiums, not merely to watch football, but to experience something together. Because in the end, football is not just about goals, it is about being human.